Okay, how would you like somebody like myself, such an experienced guy, been married, I have 3 kids, I've been divorced, I've researched very much what went wrong, I've become a marriage mediator, divorce mediator, and so more importantly, I've studied from Jewish mysticism, from the great and holy Lubavitch Rebbe, the greatest master in human history. So, how would you like to get the inside track? How would you like to know everything that a marriage is really about? Now, there's a great body of wisdom called Jewish mysticism. And I'm just trying to think how to explain Jewish mysticism. I would have to say Jewish mysticism is like, imagine you and I speak about my body. So you think, oh, body, I know a body. A body is a shape. But then I go to a doctor and I speak about a body. So you're talking 2 different languages because the doctor knows your heart and your lungs and they know every organ. They know the whole body. So that means that there is an absolute difference between knowing the soul from the inside, knowing what makes us tick, and knowing, oh, it's a woman, it's a man. You don't know anything. You know nothing. And so once you touch Jewish mysticism, you begin to understand what it is, what's the dynamic here. Let me start with a statement by a very bright guy, Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager, he says to his wife, he says, I tell my wife when I go by at the chimpanzee or orangutan place at the zoo, I say, I have more in common, or I have more understanding of that male chimpanzee than I have of you. And it's true. Men don't understand women and women don't understand men. So this is not about women understanding men. That's a subject on its own right. This is more about men understanding marriage and understanding women. And if you understand this and if you do this, you will be an amazing husband, an amazing marriage. But it's a very big subject. So I guess there's no real way. Everybody today is looking for quick fixes. That's why nothing works, because you stick on a Band-Aid and it falls off. There's no quick fix in life. If you want something to work, you got to put super glue. It takes time to make it stick. It takes time. You have to change the way you think. Just going to do the same, as Einstein says. Insanity is repeating the same input, expecting a different output. He says if you change nothing, nothing will change. So it's very simple. It's in your capacity. What I'm teaching you is what it took me a long time to discover. Taught to us by the greatest mystics. It's not known really, and it will change your life only if you do it. If you don't do it, it won't change anything. And so here's how it goes. The first thing that you have to understand is that there is a dynamic in a relationship. So men with men and women with women are different to how men and women are together. And the example that I like to give men, based on an article that I once wrote, is imagine how you are with your boss. So if the guy wasn't your boss and you met him in the store, how would you be with him? Just another guy. But yet, because he's your boss, there's a different dynamic going on. And you see him in a certain kind of almost Superman status. Now that changes everything. It's a massive subject. I don't want to go deep into the psychology because I'm not into psychology. I'm into change. And in order to have change, you just need the basics and you need to do the basics. If you listen to me and you do it, it will work. So all the information we're not about information, we're about transformation. So in that dynamic of the Superman and average man, or let's call it hero worship, what is very critical to understand is that the way you look at, not even what you say, the way you look at this person is going to make the person feel good or bad. And another example that I like to give is imagine your own parent. So when you were a child, the way your parent looked at you because you were so vulnerable and they were like super people to you. So the way a person looks at you, even in this video, if you consider me as a special person, the way I look even through this video at you will impact perhaps your self-esteem. And so the way you look at your wife, the way you look at her is going to matter. So you say, okay, how can I control the way I look? The answer is you can control the way you think. Because you look at someone based on how you think about them. So, for example, if I love dogs, or I love children, for example, and my sister-in-law was holding her grandson, I was like, oh, can I see him? Can I hold him? So now you have to understand, what does this little kid think about himself? He thinks that the whole world loves him. Hold on one second. He thinks that the whole world loves him. And that's what you want. The child should be. I remember this very clever black lady, she was saying on a show. She says, what does the child want? That your eyes light up when you come into the room. So the point is that if you love this child, then you automatically show the child that you love them. And that has to do with how you think about them. And so you have to, as I write in my book, and I really encourage you, I'll try to put a link to my book, Kabbalah Love. You have to every day when you wake up, you have to think how lucky you are that that person is in your life. And when you do that, now I don't want to expose too much publicly, but being divorced, sometimes you may pick up resentment, but I always get rid of it. I always just, even till this very day, when I wake up every morning, in my list, I probably have at least 10 things I thank God for. One of them is my ex-wife. Why? Because she did tremendous things for me. You know, men get their self-esteem and their confidence. So that is real. I'm grateful for that. Now, okay, it's not as close as, let's say, a marriage, but at least if I'm interacting now, I'm not bringing resentment. I'm not bringing anger. So you have to every night get rid of upsetness. Say, I forgive them. Maybe they were in a bad mood. I've been in bad moods. Think about times that you were in bad moods. You got to have your inner heart being loving. And this is, in fact, the most important verse of the Bible, which particularly refers to your own wife and those closest to you. And that's love unconditionally. That's what it says. Love there's no conditions. You love yourself. How do you love yourself? Do you love yourself because you did something? I'm giving you a reward because you got a good mark on a test. No, I love myself because I am myself. Your wife is your other half. Automatic. There's nothing else to it. And when that is your attitude, then your love is fine. Often people have to kind of be happy because it's hard to have, I don't want to go too deep into it, but love is an extension of self-love, so you have to have self-love to love the other, but that's a separate issue. So happiness really comes from gratitude. Very important. The first thing you do in the morning, you have to say 10 things you're grateful for. It puts you in a positive frame of mind. If you're miserable, you're going to make other people miserable. It's hard. In fact, you'll become jealous of people that have love. Very important to do that. So the first thing is when you wake up in the morning, you got to count your blessings. The other thing is, remember this kind of boss, kind of worker relationship or parent-child relationship. You have to say something. You have to say, I really appreciate you. I'm grateful for everything you do. Imagine how much that makes the employee feel. Now imagine a random guy comes to you in the store and says, I really appreciate you. You think the guy's off the wall. But somebody that means so much to you particularly that you're vulnerable towards, it will mean the world. You'll buy the heart. Third of all, imagine you do something. Imagine you bring flowers, you bring chocolate, you make a card. These things are meaningful because it says to them, I really value you. So again, the most important thing is what's going on in your heart, because you can't fake it. You give somebody a card, but you don't love them in their heart. They don't see it in your eyes. They're going to feel terrible. If you bring it into your consciousness, this is the other half of my soul, the one that God wants me to love. Think about everything they do for you. And then you say once a day, and I guarantee this, I'd love you to give me feedback on how it works for you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And best is some flowers with a card that says, thank you for everything you do. I love you so much. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I promise you, your wife will be so in love with you, you won't know what hit you. So that's number one. The other thing that's very important, and this is something I really lacked. I remember when I was dating, don't say this to anybody, please. I remember asking, I said, we all go through this. I said, how are you on communication? So I'll just say my part. I knew that I wasn't a good communicator, and I knew that there would be a problem, because a marriage must have mature communication. And really, to be perfectly frank, in a way, my marriage was doomed from the start. Why? Because I was not a good communicator. I did not know how to communicate. In a way, I was passive aggressive. I'm not saying that in a terrible way. It's just it was my nature kind of thing, or maybe the psychological way I was. I didn't know how to communicate. I believe now that I'm much more healthy, and I'm assertive, meaning I'm a nice guy, but if I'll say what I want to say. So in a marriage, and this is the most critical thing, I'll try to put a link to a letter of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says that a marriage is two separate people. It's not one person. It's two people. And you have to expect different opinions. Now, when you're in love, you're just giving and giving and giving. That's the nature of love. You just give. But eventually what happens is that love tapers off. The magic is gone. And now there's kind of a calm. If you want to, this is really scientific. They've done studies on this. The first kind of maybe 2 years or whatever, maybe the dating, and then you have the love of fire. It's this passion. You're going to do anything for the person. But then you have the love of water. It's like a nice bath. It feels good. But it doesn't have that passion. And in fact, you can become accustomed to it. You have to realize for a marriage to work, it's give and take. It's meeting each other halfway. It's understanding that it's like two horses. If one's going this way and one's going that way and they're hitched to the same plow, it's going to be big problems. You have to learn how to compromise with each other. And if you can't do it, go to a mediator. There's an entire field of mediators called marital mediation. You're welcome to use me as well. $100 an hour, or if it's something that can help you guys and you're both serious, I'll even do it for free. But the bottom line is you have to do marital mediation. Ideally, you have to do it on your own. Why? Because you can't have two people, basically, two horses pulling one carriage, one home, and you're going in different directions. It ain't going to work. And you have to do it, the Rebbe says, with joy. It can't be I'm giving into you, I resent it. Because building resentment, what did we say before, is the worst thing you can do. So you have to do it with joy. So you say, why should I be joyful? I'm giving up my will. I remember a guy who was an ex-mafia guy. Thank God he became religious. And he says, you know what the hardest thing in the world is? When your wife asks you to move the cup from here to there. You know why? Because your ego gets involved. A guy can say, do me a favor, go to Alaska for me. You'll say, no problem. But your wife says, do me a favor, move the cup from here to here. You're thinking, why should I move the cup? What does she want me to move the cup for? She says, move the cup because it's a better position there for me. You say, okay, I understand. But women often don't say why. They just say, can you do this for me? They expect you to care about them, to do it. So, to conclude, you have to do it with joy, knowing that if you're going to work together, she's going to be happy. When she's happy, God's blessings will come. The woman is Malchus. She receives the blessings from Keser. And finally, it doesn't take a rocket science, but you got to follow the mitzvah. All the mitzvahs of Torah, ideally, they all make a difference. Certainly the mitzvah of mikvah, I write about it in my book. So check out my book, Kabbalah Love. Really, all the information, all the guidance letter of the Rebbe, it's all there in the book. I guarantee anybody, and I want to say this, open guarantee, anybody that does the course with me, again, if you can't afford it, I'm happy to do it for free. If you can, it's $100 a session. It'll probably be, if you go through the whole course, maybe, and we do the mediation as well, 20 sessions. 100% money back guarantee that you will have a successful marriage. Now, I do have to say, just as a disclaimer, it takes two people to tango. Both people have to want the marriage. Sometimes one person really wants out. There's nothing to do. So I want to tell you something very important. If you've gotten this far to the video, it matters to you. Take action now. There's nothing better than being married, being happily married, and it takes effort. If you can do it yourself, great. If you can't, please be in touch with me. Contact me through my website. If you really want to get a hold of me, you'll get a hold of me. And I guarantee, a money-back guarantee, that you will have an awesome marriage.